My name is Mary Fraser, and this presentation is on Aaron's to-do list and application for the Mac iOS system, and it's done in conjunction with Psych273 for Dr. Tony Andre at San Jose State University. This is a usability report, and what I did was conducted a heuristic evaluation of this application, and I did it in accordance with industry standards because that's what we're learning in the class. In the report is a review of user goals, application goals and company goals, a description of the typical user, 2 formal methods of evaluation, 1 survey adding quantitative backup for the first 2 methods of evaluation, and a final review of the application. The application goals itself, it's a task manager. It's a to-do list. It's mundane tasks, things you have to do every day: feed the cat, get the groceries, pay the water bill, things like that. The company goal, this guy is named David Yocto, and he created a site called Yoctoville in which he and his dog live. And he says that his goals are, he just wants to create awesome apps for iPhone, iPod, and iPad. All of his applications concentrate on the mundane tasks of the everyday. One of his other applications is an alarm clock, for instance. Sarah McMillan is your typical user. She's a working mom. She's aged 30 to 45. She's moving up the career ladder. She's either married or divorced. She doesn't have a lot of time for herself. And because of that, she needs an application that's easy and smart. Ben Carter is the other side of this coin, and he's a tech guy, or he's a lawyer, or maybe a realtor. Either way, he's got a lot going on. He needs to do a lot of tasks. He's responsible for a lot of different people, and he needs an application that can help keep him organized. He's technologically literate, and chances are he's partnered. I got both of these demographics off of not only the online reviews that I did, but the survey that I did, in which I asked a bunch of different demographics out of 23 users. Both personas are 2 sides of the same coin. Both users want speed of application. They want ease of use in an application. They have more than one person to be accountable for. They need transparency. They need logic, and they need the cloud to sync. Tasks that are ongoing shouldn't have to be entered continually. It's a time waster. That's what these users need. The first method of evaluation of this application was an online review. I looked at 5 different websites. AppsMeNow and AppAdvice are not just Mac OS, whereas Macworld, iTunes, and Cilantro are. Cilantro has the best sort of overall layout in terms of what's good and what's not, but they all pretty much said the same thing. The good things about the online review is that there's a swipe delete, which most of my users in the interview didn't find. There's an automatic reordering of completed tasks, which my users did find. There is a priority feature, again found. Single touch to add new task, that was a little more difficult. And simple and easy sorting, they also found this. They also agreed with the not so cool features, that it was a confusing interface. You didn't know if you were on the main screen, you didn't know if you were somewhere else. There was an inconsistency of symbology throughout the application. There's a notification that you can't read. It comes up and says there's the notification, you can't find it. Turns out it's under settings and it's under Mac help. Editing could have been more accessible. Again, this is problematic in terms of the symbology and the transparency issues. The second method were the interviews. We talked about those just a little bit, but this is exactly how it was conducted. 6 new users were asked to download the application and play with it. I had 3 iPhone users and 3 iPad users do this. Participants were asked to perform certain tasks related to their own productivity. So for instance, if you were a working mom and you had to pick up your child at a certain time, or send a thank you note to the child's teacher, or buy a teacher gift, or whatever it was specific to working moms, that was what you entered. All were then asked about your experience with the application and the likelihood of continued use. They were then sent a post hoc survey in which their answers were combined with the original 23 users. The interview tasks were to add a task. Here, this is the screen to do it. It's fairly straightforward. It's pretty simple. They were also asked to add a folder. Again, you've got your plus sign. However, here, this comes straight up. The plus sign had to be found, and there were other things associated with it. For instance, in order to find the actual editing of a task, you had to double-click on the task itself to bring up the edit bar. There were more tasks. I was asked to delete a folder or a task. This was problematic, and the only way to delete a task is to click the minus button, which brings up this screen. So there's two delete screens to delete one item. Now, I understand the "are you sure you want to delete this" idea, but instead of having two screens that ask you to do the same task, how about just a pop-up button that says, "Are you sure you want to delete this?" User control was also a problem. It was really hard to get around, and the facts and the help were hard to find. It turns out they're in settings, and 4 out of the 6 people that I interviewed could not find them. One person stumbled on them by mistake. There's consistency problems. This is the main screen for an iPhone on T-Mobile. You have to edit the task to begin, but that's not true on Verizon. And what I want to know is, why is the Skype call there? Is this an assumed task? Are you supposed to Skype your mother every morning just on T-Mobile? Is that the deal? That doesn't make sense. So overall, the likability and use in the interviews was, there was no way to share information among application users. So for instance, if you're a working mom and you're married and you have a partner, there should be a way for you to upload or overlay what's going on in your application with your partner's, and there isn't. The sync between the iOS devices is buggy. If you have an iPhone and an iPad, it takes a while to upload. There's no way to show this, unfortunately, but it takes a while to upload, and some of the tasks are there and some of the tasks aren't. When Yoctaville was contacted about this, his response was that he had worked on an iCloud upgrade. We went to the iCloud, and it turns out it's not really an upgrade. It's the same thing. It's still buggy. There's no way to overlay information onto standard use web calendars. For instance, iCal. A lot of event websites like Eventbrite, Evite, so on and so forth, have a section where you can just simply say add to calendar. Not in this case. It doesn't add it. Okay, and there's no way to add it. There are some feed-forward issues, which I'll talk about in just a second, and again, the consistency issues between device interfaces. Here's a feed-forward issue. When entering a task and pressing either done or next, this window pops up. Identical to this window, except for the done button in the lower corner. This is redundant. And what are they meaning to say? Are you sure you want to add this task? Well, yeah, you wouldn't have bothered to enter it if you didn't want to add the task. Consistency issues among devices. The iPad is consistent with the plus sign here, but over here it means add a new folder. And on the iPhone's main screen for T-Mobile, remember that you had to click on the edit button, not on the plus sign. Final summary of this application is that problematic in that it's Mac iOS only. Productivity tool specific to individual tasks and everyday jobs, and it's great. It's got a clean interface, it's got a clean design. But there are feed-forward and consistency issues. It's buggy with other iOS devices, and there's no cloud or web-based syncing. That concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for your time.